Our first challenge number 1, is to write a program using the Dart language to print hello world in the output console. When a program runs, it automatically searches for the main function and executes the code of the main function. So let us write the main function. First we say void because the main function will not return anything. So it returns nothing, so we say void. Then the name of the function. Round brackets because it is a function. And the code of this function will be in curly brackets. In curly braces. Within the curly braces will be the definition of the function. To print hello world, we will simply call the print function and pass a string of hello world as the argument. So this is it. We say void main. Don't return anything, so void. Main is the name of the function. Round brackets followed by curly braces. The definition of the function is we call print function and we pass hello world as the input arguments. So let us run this. And you see it works. We see the output as hello world. Challenge number 2. Let us go to challenge number 2. It is that we need to print hello world in the Flutter mobile app. In a Flutter mobile app. Instead of the Dart programming language, now we have to print hello world in a Flutter mobile app. So void main will be as it is. We will call the run app function. So run app. So first let us quickly discuss the main concept behind Flutter. The main concept behind Flutter is that we need to compose the widget tree and modify the state. Our code has to compose the widget tree and modify the state. This is the main concept behind Flutter, because the user interface is simply a tree of widgets. So what we have to do in our code is we have to compose the widget tree, and whenever some user event happens, we have to modify the state. Once we modify the state by calling the setState function. To modify the state, we have to call the setState function. And when the setState function is called, Flutter will automatically call the build method. Inside the build method, our code will compose the widget tree. So whenever the setState function is called, the user interface will be drawn by Flutter by calling the build method. So remember friends, the key idea behind Flutter, the main concept behind Flutter is that our code needs to compose the widget tree and just modify the state. Flutter will automatically draw the user interface for us. It provides us automatic redraw by calling the build method whenever we call the setState method. So whenever we call the setState method, Flutter automatically calls the build function, the build method. I've just given you the main concept behind Flutter. Now let us code, and the main concept will be crystal clear for us. So inside the main function, I'm calling a function called run app. So I will just mark the ending of run app, that run app ends. And inside the run app, we will have a text widget. The first argument will be the string. So I will just mark the ending of the text widget. And after each widget, we place a comma. So the run app is a function. It takes in a text widget as the argument. So the run app function will make the text widget as the root widget of the widget tree. So the user interface is just a widget tree of widgets. Every user interface component is a widget. The entire user interface is just a tree of widgets. So now this text widget will become the root widget. Run app will make this as the root widget of the widget tree of the user interface. Okay. So now see, it is giving me some error that the run app function is not defined. This is because the run app function is present in the material package. So let me just import the material package. Okay, so I'm just importing the material package, and you see the errors have gone away now. Let me just run the program. So nothing is appearing in the output. This is because Flutter wants us to specify the text direction. It needs to know whether text needs to be drawn left to right or right to left. So let us quickly specify the text direction key value in the text widget. So the key will be text direction. So you see, I'm giving small t and capital D here as the key, and the value will be capital T and capital T. So this pattern comes again and again. Small t and capital T as the key, and capital T and capital T as the value, the constructor. So here I will say LTR because I want left to right. Okay, so let me just run the program. We want it to come at the center of the screen. So we will simply add a center widget as the parent of this text widget. We will simply wrap this text widget into the center widget. So the center widget will end after the text widget. So I will mark the ending here first of the center widget. And here I will start the center widget. And that's pretty much it. So I'm getting an error that too many position arguments, because center widget and container widget, these two widgets take only one child. So I will say child is text. Okay. So now let me run the program. So you see hello world is now coming at the center. Okay. Our next challenge is that we have to improve the user interface by adding an app bar at the top. So to get the app bar at the top, we will use a stateless widget. And in the stateless widget, we will return a material app. This material app will use a scaffold. We'll have a scaffold widget. The scaffold widget has the app bar. Okay. So the idea is to use a stateless widget, then return a material app from there. And inside the material app, I will have the scaffold. So I will just write down what our plan is now. Plan is to make a stateless widget. And inside the stateless widget, we will return the material app. And from the material app, we will have a scaffold widget. And this scaffold widget has the app bar. Okay. So let us do this quickly. It's very simple and interesting. So in the run app, I will remove all the code inside the run app. And I will simply call my stateless widget. So let me define this stateless widget as class hello world extends stateless widget. Okay, so the stateless widget has a build method, inbuilt build method, inside which we have to compose the user interface widget tree. So I will override the build method. So I'll say add the override, and let us override the build method. Okay. So inside the build, we will return a material app. We are returning the material app from our build method, and the home will be a scaffold. Inside the material app, we have to specify what our first screen will be, what the home will be. So it will be a scaffold widget. Basically, inside the build method, we just have to compose our widget tree, which will be the user interface. So here, I will note down the endings. Material app is ending here. Scaffold is ending here. Scaffold has app bar. So again, see A small, capital B, and then A capital and capital B. And we will have an empty app bar. Okay, then we have to specify the body. So what will be in the body? Simply a text widget. So the text widget, I will just mark its ending. Whenever you make a new widget, just mark its ending and end it with a comma. First argument will be hello world. Okay. So this looks good enough. Inside the build, I have a material app. Then I have a scaffold. I have an empty app bar inside the scaffold. And in the body, I have a text widget with hello world. So let me run this. And we see we have a nice app bar and we have hello world at the top. Now again, I will align it in the center. So we have done that. I will just wrap my text. Here I will end the center widget. center ends, and before the here I will start the center widget and specify its child as the text widget. Okay, so this looks good. Let me run this. So you see it has come at the center. Great. Now what I have to do, first I will just create a variable here inside the stateless widget as string my text, and I will initialize this string as hello world. And inside the text widget where I am using hello world, I will use my text. So this should work out very easily. Yeah, great. Now our next challenge number 4, is that when I click on hello world, it should become goodbye world. Okay. So what I will do for that, we have to sense the on tap event of the user. When the user taps this, I have to sense the event. So this whole center widget, we will wrap it in a gesture detector widget. So what the gesture detector widget will do is it will sense the on tap event. So let me just write gesture detector, open it, and after center I've already marked the ending of center, so I can easily end the gesture detector. So this is the benefit of marking the endings. I'm seeing that benefit here, so I will continue to follow this practice. And after each widget ending, we have to keep a comma. So this comma is just for alignment purposes. The editors can automatically align stuff based on this comma. I'm getting some error, too many positions, so I have to say child is center. Okay, so see, now inside the build function, we are composing the widget tree. Home is scaffold, app bar is empty, body is gesture detector, center and text. These 3 things we have. Okay, so the gesture detector, let me say on tap change text. So whenever the user is doing the tap, it will call this function. Okay, so this is undefined, so let us define change text. Like this we have to move step by step while coding. Change text. I'm sure some of you guys already know or are already doing the coding step by step. So what change text, I'm defining it, and inside this I will say this dot my text equal to goodbye world, which is our challenge, that when we click hello world it should become goodbye world. Goodbye world. Okay. So on tab I'm saying change text, and inside change text I'm changing the state of my application. The state is simply this variable right now. So let us see it will work. So you can see it is not working. So the reason is, the experienced guys here who are watching the video might have easily guessed the reason. So the reason is that we are using stateless widget. Now the stateless widget is like a static widget. It can never change. Even if the user event is occurring, it is calling my change text function. We are changing the value of this variable which is being used here inside the text, but still it is not changing, because stateless widget is a static widget. It will never change. Even if the user event is happening, function is being called, but it cannot change only. Okay, so we have to use a stateful widget, which is dynamic, which can change in response to event. So in the stateful, if I use instead of stateless widget, if I use a stateful widget and then I set my state, it will start working. Okay, so our plan now is just to replace the stateless widget with a stateful widget. Yes, so instead of the stateless widget, we will have to use a stateful widget, because stateless widget is static and this is not working out for us. So stateful widget will be dynamic. When the event occurs, we will just change the state and Flutter by using setState function, and Flutter will automatically redraw the user interface for us. Okay, so I will just replace this stateless widget with the state object first. Okay, so first I will create a stateful widget, class hello world, extends stateful widget. Now this stateful widget, it will call a create state function. Okay, this is the create state function, and the definition is of a single line only. We have to just initialize the state object in the create state function. So Flutter will automatically call this create state function of the stateful widget, in which we have to initiate the state object. So I'm just initiating the state object now. So I'm calling the constructor of hello world state, which is our state object, and here I'm starting the name with an underscore. So in Dart programming language, whenever there is an underscore before a variable name, it becomes a private variable. So this will return a state object. So the create state function will be automatically called by Flutter. Okay, and in what we are doing in this create state is we are calling the constructor hello world state, which will return a hello world state object, which is a private variable. And here we are saying class private variable hello world state extends state of hello world. So these angle brackets means which type it is. It is a state object of type hello world, which is the angle brackets generics feature. So this is a fairly standard pattern. So I'm creating a stateful widget, and then I'm initializing the state object. The state object extends the state inbuilt class, and this state object is of which type? Of type hello world. Okay. So we have replaced the stateless widget with a stateful widget, and we have created the state object in which the build method is there, which is composing the user interface tree. So now let me run this program and see what happens. So again, see, if I click on this, nothing happens. Nothing is happening. So the reason is that on tap of the gesture detector, change text is called. So change text is being called. Okay. We are changing the state variable, which is my text. This is the state right now in our code. The my text is the state. We are changing the state to goodbye world, but still it is not changing because we have to do this inside the set state function. So yeah, so we have to do this inside the set state function. So let me write the set state function. So see, this set state function is taking a function as the argument, which does not have any name. It is an anonymous function, and inside that we will change the state. Okay. So inside the set state function, we are changing the state of my text to goodbye world. Initially, it starts off as hello world, and then when the event occurs, this function is called, and we change it to goodbye world. So now remember this one line: whenever set state is called, Flutter will automatically call the build method. Whenever we call set state in our code, Flutter will automatically call the build method to redraw the user interface widget tree. So now this will be redrawn, and the correct my text will be shown as goodbye world. So let me run it. So see, it is working now. When I tap on hello world, it becomes goodbye world. Okay. So when I just used a state widget, a state object, I used a stateful widget. So hello world is a stateful widget which initializes a state object, and inside the state object, when the user event, we build our user interface tree. So on tap we call change text. Then when change text is called, we say set state. Now when set state, we call set state in our code, Flutter will automatically call the build method and rebuild the user interface tree with this new state. Okay. So just one quick recap of the entire program. Very short and simple program this is. Hello world Flutter program, you can say. So when the program runs, it automatically searches for the main method. In the main method, we call run app. So the root of the widget tree will be the hello world widget, which is a stateful widget. All the components in Flutter are widgets. Everything is a widget. So the root will be the hello world stateful widget defined here. The hello world stateful widget has the state, initializes the state object, because create state is automatically called by Flutter. So this state object will be created. Now inside the state object, there will be a build method which we are overriding. Here in the build method, we compose our user interface widget tree. We have a gesture detector, center, and a text. So whenever on tap event occurs, we call change text. Inside change text, we modify the state. We call set state function to modify the state. See, here we are modifying the state by calling the set state function. Now whenever we call the set state function, Flutter will automatically call the build method to redraw the user interface tree with the new state. So hello world will be changed to goodbye world. So all this Flutter runs at 60 frames per second. So that's why it appears very instant. Whenever I click, very quickly it draws the new user interface because we are calling set state. So whenever we call set state, Flutter will trigger a build method. So the main concept behind Flutter is we have to compose the user interface tree and modify the state when the user event occurs. Compose the user interface tree and modify the state when the user event occurs. One more time I'm repeating, just burn this in your mind that this is the main concept. In our code, in the build method, we compose the user interface tree. When the user interface event occurs, we modify the state, and Flutter will give you it will automatically trigger the build method to draw the user interface widget tree. So the main concept is we compose the user interface